Lyra being the main constellation and Vega being the major star system in that constellation. Lyra is the home of human consciousness. So in our galaxy, when Source decided that we were going to have this descent into physicality, this journey that we've all been on together for millennia, for millions of years, if not billions of years, physical life started in the Lyra system. The two major human races, so that would be the white Lyrans, who are more aligned with Father God consciousness, and the blue Vega people that were aligned with Mother Goddess consciousness, were created in this beautiful star system. Lyra, unfortunately, went through a major devastation. So they had this flourishing, beautiful, paradise-like civilization for thousands of years. If you align with the movie Avatar, okay, that's what Lyra was like, okay? I like to use movies to kind of, I'm a big movie fan, and I like Star Wars and Star Trek and all that, so, yeah, got my fellow fans back there, so getting back to Avatar and Lyra, Lyra actually was flourishing until one day they were completely destroyed by the dark beings that came from Draco. Okay, Draco decided they wanted to conquer the Lyran system for resources, and because of that, they said that entire planets were lost, so they were completely annihilated. 50 million Lyrans lost their lives. Okay, many of us here in this room today are here with Lyra Vega genetics, okay? So how does this affect us even today? I know that sounds like, well, millions of years ago, how does this affect us? Well, we all carry those trauma signatures in our DNA, you know, so through the Akashic reading work I've been doing, and I've done thousands of readings for many people of many walks of life, all throughout the world, okay? And what I found is I've seen patterns. I'm starting to see patterns of certain health conditions that pop up with specific star lineages. So Lyra Vega people, okay, so these are people that have open hearts. They're childlike. They usually resonate to nature. Of course, a lot of us resonate to nature, but they usually tend to be plant medicine healers. These are folks that are kind of childlike, maybe, really tend to be drawn to fairies and maybe, I don't know, plant medicine, that sort of thing. But if you resonate with that, if you're somebody that's Wiccan, or you don't have to be Wiccan, or you resonate towards being a healer, more of a plant medicine oriented healer, then you're probably a Lyra Vega starseed. The difference between Lyra and Vega is that Lyrans are more outwardly focused, and the Vega people are more inwardly focused. They're more spiritual. Lyran people are a little bit more physical. But what I've seen through some of the work I've done is that Lyra Vega starseeds tend to suffer from inflammatory and autoimmune conditions, such as chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, and other related diseases. How much of that do we see in our world today? We see many of us either know somebody that suffer from these conditions, or maybe we suffer from these conditions. Migraines and stress headaches may also be a condition experienced by these Lyran Vegan starseeds, as well as depression and bipolar disorder. Lyran Vegan starseeds might start off being healthy when they're younger, but then they get exposed to stress and the day-to-day life and struggling with the 3D reality. And then they start to, these trauma signatures and their ancient trauma signatures in their DNA get activated. Okay, it gets activated. So anyway, so then they start developing these chronic conditions. So what are some specific medications or remedies or healing practices that these types of starseeds can do to help themselves? So obviously a clean, healthy diet, high vibrational diet will help. Lyran and vegan peoples tend to be drawn towards vegan and vegetarian diets. They seem to do really well with those types of diets. Now some supplements that might help them, so these are supplements that support immune conditions or inflammation. Well, helps with the reduction of inflammation, would be supplements such as curcumin, fish oil, ginger, resveratrol, spirulina, bromelain, and green tree extract. They also do very well with psychospiritual healing practices such as QHHT, so that's quantum healing hypnosis technique. They do really well with past life regression work and with sound healing and guided meditations. Traditional therapy might also help the Lyran starseed help with depression and mental health concerns. Now, even though I was a Arcturian starseed, I did have past lives in Lyra. I had to go through my own trauma healing through a past life I had in Lyra, where I got killed during the Lyran Wars, and that did a tremendous job in helping me recover from cancer. I was holding a lot of anger from that life, apparently. So how to optimize these genetics? If you have Lyra Vega genetics, how to optimize them? So the Lyran and Vega starseeds are generally geared towards active sports and activities that require a lot of vigorous movement, And you'll see a difference as we go through these different star groups. So examples of exercise that are ideal for you guys are running, weight training, CrossFit, hiking, skiing and snowboarding, I don't know, a lot of it, high intensity interval training. They really tend to do well when they're involved with active exercise, okay? Now obviously the Lyran and Vegan people that struggle with immune conditions or are struggling with a chronic condition might have to mitigate some of this, okay? So I'm not telling everybody to go out and run a marathon. But we're gonna move on to Sirius, okay? So a lot of people feel a connection to Sirius. Sirius was aligned with the Sirian mystery schools. Sirius is a trinary star system. I think now they're binary, but at one time they were trinary, so there's Sirius A, B, and C. So Sirius was a civilization that was developed by Lyran and Vegan refugees after the Lyran Wars. So after the Lyran Wars, there were survivors. They dispersed into the galaxy, and they survived, and they created new civilizations and other systems. So the Sirians, these were a hardy group of people. I tell you what, I have great respect for Sirians. I love Sirians. I have my assistant back there is a Sirian, so thank you, Ann. They can deal with anything. So Sirians went through massive colonization of these 3 star systems that I mentioned. And because they were survivors from the wars, they were just like, well, we need to really ramp up on our technology. We need to be focused on expansion of these systems. So a lot of Sirian people are very serious, they're very grounded people, they're very oriented towards business, towards finance, because they're good at navigating physical reality. So these Sirians have been went through this phase where they were focused on technology. However, they did eventually go back to being integrated with spirituality. So that's why you see this alignment with the Sirian mystery schools and ascended masters. So Sirian people were colonizing Earth for millions of years. Okay, they've been visiting here for a long time because Sirius is located 8.7 light years from Earth. They're fairly close, relatively speaking. So the ancient Sirian geneticist did some manipulation of Earth genetics. So pretty much all of us carry a certain percentage of Sirian physical DNA. So because of that, Sirian starseeds are probably the most well integrated with Earth conditions, Earth physical conditions. So unlike the Lyrans that had a lot of issues, Sirians tend to be pretty fairly hardy and healthy. However, they can also suffer from illnesses due to stress. So Syrian starseeds also tend to be caretakers because these people are very oriented towards being healers, being service to other oriented. They tend to be caretakers, and I call this the Syrian syndrome, where they're just taking care of everybody else and not taking care of themselves. So because of this, they can create, they have a tendency to build up inflammation through insulin resistance. Okay, so you can see this trend with Syrians, which can lead to weight gain and metabolic syndrome. Syrians can also be prone to heart conditions due to stress. So once they resolve their stressful lifestyles and set appropriate boundaries in their interpersonal relationships, then they recover. Usually they recover quickly. With the Lyrans, they kind of takes them a while. Lyrans are just like, takes them a while. Syrians, they get it like that because they're well integrated. Their genetics are well integrated here. So what are some health modalities that help Syrians? So Syrians tend to do very well on paleo and low carb keto types of diets. They thrive on those kinds of diets. They need a little bit of protein and meat in their diets. Although I do know, there are exceptions. So these are just generalizations, so I don't want to make it sound like everybody that's a Syrian starseed needs to be on a paleo diet. But usually they tend to do well when they reduce their intake of sugar and carbohydrates. So for supplementation, Syrian starseeds do well with these supplements. So we got ashwagandha, L-theanine, melatonin, rhodiola rosea, and valerian. They also do really well with cannabis. Now I know some of us like to use cannabis for medicinal purposes. Well, did you know that cannabis actually came from Sirius B originally?
I got it.
Yeah. So canis means dog, okay? Be means bee, Sirius B. So we have a long history and long connection with cannabis. And that's why it works so well with human genetics. So Syrians can use cannabis successfully for pain management and stress. They also can benefit a lot from working through old ancestral belief patterns and adding in positive affirmations, because they have a tendency to get bogged down into reality sometimes. You know, these are people that are serious, serious. So how do you optimize Syrian genetics? Syrian starseeds seem to thrive in environments that are on the coast or located close to water. The reason for this is because Sirius had a lot of watery planets. They lived near water. It was dolphins and whales originated from Sirius. So they seem to do best when they're living near water. So for this reason, Syrians do best with exercise that is more water-based, such as swimming, rowing, diving, water skiing, kayaking, etc. Syrians also do well with yoga, Reiki, crystal healing, regular meditation, and with Ayurvedic medicine and practices. The reason for this is because Ayurvedic medicine actually originated from the Vega system. And a lot of Syrians were descendants of Vega refugees. Okay, so we have a long connection with some of these modalities. Also, Sirius was a location that developed Reiki, that developed chakra work, developed crystal healing, body work, such as massage therapy, that sort of thing. We're going to move on to the Pleiades, okay? That's everybody's favorite system. Everybody loves the Pleiades, okay? We're going to try to get through the Pleiades and Arcturus. I don't know if I'll have time for Andromeda, but we'll do what we can. So Pleiadian starseeds are also mostly descendants of Lyran refugees. Because they were colonized and developed after the fall of Lyra, and because of the trauma that was experienced by their ancestors, they were anxious to reinvent themselves and created a civilization that was solely based on light and positivity. Because they came from systems that were highly loving and supportive, a lot of Pleiadian starseeds that come here to Earth struggle with the reality here, because it can be very harsh here. So some Pleiadian and so some specific remedies and healing practices. So Pleiadian and Lyran starseeds, so they both kind of fall in the same category sometimes. They do thrive on vegetarian and vegan plant-based diets. Pleiadian starseeds tend to do really well with complex carbohydrates, so like sweet potatoes, for instance. But because they have a tendency towards diabetes and pre-diabetes, they have to regulate sometimes their carb intake. Pleiadians can benefit from supplements that supports energy, such as vitamin B12, vitamin D, iron, zinc, DHEA, beetroot powder, creatine, and tyrosine. They also seem to do really well on flower essences and homeopathic remedies. Pleiadian starseeds do well with exercises that are more focused and harmonious and gentle, such as yoga, Pilates, not Pleiades, Tai Chi, Qigong, and dance. They tend to be very, like the Syrians, they tend to be very giving in relationships, so setting good boundaries is going to really help with prioritizing self-care for these folks. Like Lyrans, Pleiadian folks thrive in nature. They love to be out in nature, so spending time outdoor, hiking, doing the things that we all love to do outside would be great for them. As far as psychospiritual work, usually deep shadow work and visualization usually helps them a lot. We're going to move on to Arcturian starseeds because I know we have a lot of them. I'm hoping to get to Andromeda, so we're going to try to speed this up a little bit. So Arcturian starseeds, they tend to be very, because there's not a whole lot of Arcturian physical genetics here on Earth, and because this was a very high vibrational, high dimensional civilization, when Arcturian starseeds incarnate on planet Earth, they become, they have a hard time integrating physically in this reality. So because of that, they can sometimes suffer from diseases that are endocrinological in nature, such as thyroid disease, adrenal insufficiency, fatigue, parathyroid disease, and prediabetes. They're also prone to various types of cancer and also to gynecological conditions such as endometriosis. Arcturians tend to suffer also from skin conditions such as acne, psoriasis, and eczema, as well as anxiety and depression. What can they do for that? Well, they might have to rely on some allopathic medical surgeries and treatments, especially for cancer, to repair and heal, but usually they do best when they integrate quite a few metaphysical modalities as well. So as far as diets go, Arcturian starseeds, we kind of run the gamut. We tend to do best with a high vibrational plant-based diet, however. Like Syrian starseeds, Arcturians do well with supplements that manage mood and stress, such as ashwagandha, magnesium, rhodiola rosea, astrologic, I'm sorry, I can see if I can pronounce this, astrologus root, I think I pronounced that right, astrologus, and holy basil leaf, and schisandra berry. So self-care and stress management is going to be really important for the Arcturian starseeds, just like they would for the Syrian starseeds. Arcturian starseeds, we also, like Syrians, do well when living near water. We seem to do very well with water. We use water for regeneration. Usually Arcturians, unlike the Lyrans, we do well with exercise that's more self-focused and self-paced, such as running, cycling, weight training, yoga, that sort of thing. So energy healing modalities such as theta healing and hypnotherapy can also help the Arcturian starseed integrate with some of their current environment. I'm going to go into Andromeda and then I'll wrap it up and open it up to questions. So Andromedans, Andromeda is one of those star systems that everybody's fascinated with. It's a very high vibrational civilization that was developed. I'm not talking about specifically Andromeda constellation, okay, not Andromeda Galaxy, which is a whole other location. But because they come from such high vibrational systems, these folks are not sometimes physically or energetically well aligned with the denser energies here on Earth. So what do? So much like the Arcturian starseeds, Andromeda starseeds, sometimes they get overwhelmed with all these health conditions. They're like, what the heck's going on? I'm doing all the right things, but I'm not feeling healthy. They tend to suffer also from endocrinological diseases and reproductive issues, food and other types of allergies, and digestive issues. So unlike the Arcturians, Andromedans aren't prone to gaining weight. Usually they tend to lose weight when they're not feeling well. They tend generally to have thin body types, not always, but that's their trend. So the galactic historical influence with Andromeda is because they went through such a rapid technical and spiritual evolution in their system. They came from very remotely located high vibrational systems that were not well integrated with Earth genetics. So when they come here and incarnate on Earth, they suffer from some conditions. So things that might help the Andromedan starseed might be learning to cooperate with others, learning to integrate communication skills, because a lot of they come from a very telepathic community, very telepathic civilization. So like the Lyrans, they suffer sometimes with struggle with their immunity and with inflammation. So these are some of the supplements that will help the Andromedan. Elderberry, medicinal mushrooms, selenium, garlic, curcumin, and B complex vitamins can help them tremendously. They tend to have weak digestive systems, so supplements that support digestive health is going to be great for them, such as pre and probiotics, L-glutamine, bromelain, magnesium, and papaya extract. Because Andromedan planets had high copper content, maybe taking copper as a supplement might be helpful to them, but they should probably consult with a health professional before doing that. So one of the books that they might want to maybe, this was a book that helped me a lot when I was recovering, even though I'm not an Andromedan starseed, but I do struggle with communication, and still do, but I'm learning. One of the books that was really helpful to me on my cancer healing journey was a book called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Changed my life. I mean, it's an amazing book. As far as other modalities that might help Andromedan starseeds, they do well with incorporating theta healing and high-level energy healing, not Reiki, but higher-level energy healing. So like Arcturian starseeds, they do well with more self-paced exercises. So they tend to do well with those types of, like running, hiking, and biking. So I'm going to kind of wrap things up because I have just a few minutes left. I was kind of hoping to get into Orion because that's a really interesting star system that's aligned with Star Wars, which I love, but we'll have to save Orion for another time. But thank you for having me here today, and let's go out there with some big Baby Yoda energy and just do our thing and be the shining star seeds that we are, changing the planet today.
Beautiful.
Please subscribe, like, and make comments, and support this channel by becoming a member. Thank you for your continued support.